Hi everyone, just getting adjusted with the camera here so that you can see the full image. Okay, here we go. Okay, this is Liesl from Artist Palette. We are doing this my mind on a palette painting, and I actually made it on a 24 by 24. So big, it's hard to even just put into the camera, but this is what I've done. So you can take a look at it. You can look at it from our website and everything just for reference, or take a picture of it as well, have it on your phone. I am going to walk you through this painting. Change things up to things that you like. So as you can tell, I did like a hobby of mine. I like to rock climb indoors and outdoors. I put some mountains there to kind of put that in as well. I'm a fan of birds. I couldn't make all the birds, but blue jay for the blue sort of paint, and some music notes because I play music, and some fantasy things. Of course, I love to paint, right? Greenery, and then you can change things up. So I did a monarch because I really love the monarch butterfly reading, and then I added some other things that kind of make it more fun. I feel like it's pretty me. All right, so I'm going to move that over to the side. I'm doing it on a smaller canvas because then you can see a little bit better what I'm doing instead of making it on another giant canvas, but you can do any size you want. You can have a pencil if you want to draw it out first. I kind of winged it when I did this. I just knew that I wanted to make a palette and then do the colors and then do something resembling those colors. So I have on my actual palette white, black, red, yellow, blue, just the primaries. Mix everything together. This is actually perfect for tracing around my palette on my canvas, and then you can put a little indent or something so it looks like you can hold it instead of just like a perfect circle. For brushes, grab whatever. So large brush for the background just to fill in however you want. You don't have to do the swirls like I did. Round brush, flat brush that are medium, detail brushes of different sizes. Number 0 and number 2. Okay, I have my water cup and paper towel as well. So let's start with the circle here. Use a pencil or use your paintbrush. In terms of color, like any color that you want to, you can do it in a very, very light color. So it doesn't, if you change your mind, you can paint over it easily. But for me, my palette is brown. You can do a different colored palette. You can do a gray palette instead. White, yellow, red about equal parts. So it's kind of an orange, and then a touch of black, goes a bit brown. All right. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to make a circle. You can move it. Have my circle for my palette. Since we haven't done the background yet, you can just put in that little indent. So from here, you can just do an indent like that. Little indent, and if you want, you can also put in the little hole for your fingers or your thumb or something right around here. So I just did it on a little bit of an angle, oval shape. It doesn't have to be perfect because what we're going to do is we're going to fill in the background, and then you can fill this in any color you want to. All right, so for the background, I did lots of swirly different colors. I started with some sort of light minty green or teal, and then I just, while it was wet, I swirled in colors over top of it so it had a multicolored look. I kept it super, super light so it wasn't clashing with my bold colors that I had for my pink colors on the palette. So that's something to keep in mind. Mostly white and just a little bit of actual colors that you're just introducing into it. So with my large brush, dip it in the water, pulling the white over to the side. A little bit of blue. See, just very little. You don't need to take a whole ton of it, so it's a baby blue. And then a dot or two of yellow, because yellow will go to, you can see it's pretty minty green from here, just with a couple dots of yellow. You can always add another dot or two of blue if it's too green for your liking. So just take whatever color you think works well for you. You can even switch it up. So you can start with this color. You're just going to have to go with the flow here. You're just going to have to go in circular, swirly motions. I just kept it all swirly and not angular lines or just like squares, just following some sort of flow, curling around. Put that all over. Touch of water. And then you can change it if you want to go a little less minty green, a bit more bluey teal. White and more blue added into the same color. And then you just keep going. You can go back and forth to these colors, change it up, or just do one solid color. I'm trying to work a little bit fast just so that when I switch and paint over top my swirls, it's still a bit damp. Going right up to the line in this hole here. You can see it's touching brown, but that's fine for me because I don't mind it mixing with some color. Mixing a bit more. You can paint your frame at the end, a solid, or you can do it right away, just because of not wanting it to dry while you're mixing the other colors on top. I like to paint it afterwards. More paint. I don't mind the brush strokes showing. Circular motions. Okay, just another little section down here before I start adding some different color. Okay. very rounded, just making sure that it looks like it's all filled in. Okay, and then let's put in, let's start with like a peachy color. Let's do that. Just washing it off really well. You can use a different brush or you can use the same brush. So I have a medium round brush. I could start with this. I am going to mix. I don't think I really just did one or two colors. I think I just mixed a lot of my colors together just to see what comes out of it. Touch of red, so like a pink, very, very soft blush pink. And then maybe a tiny dot of yellow, so it goes a bit peachy. All right, let's start with, so kind of right here. I don't mind going into my palette because I just paint over it. I'm just doing swirls, circular motions, a spiral. Not over blending, so the more I go over, the more it's going to blend with my teal and probably go more green or brown. Let's do another one. I did another one down here. I use a pretty generous amount of paint on my brush. Grab a bit more. So when you have swirls clashing with another, you can either go on top of it and overlap it or pretend it's behind it. So I didn't just go over top of this one below. I just kept going, and like this one, I'm going to decide that this one's over top. And then this one's just on the side. Okay, so I have lots of teal on my brush. I'm just going to wash it off and then do it again. So after a while, I think washing off the brush is helpful. Take the same or similar color and then do it again. Some of them I went a little bit bigger. Just filling the space as well. So if I have a gap, some sort of swirls. Mm-hmm. Okay. Pretty much filled in with some sort of swirl everywhere, and then I can just add color to it. You can wait for it to dry a bit more, or you can keep going with certain colors and then add on top when it's dry more bold colors that don't mix in with teal. I do like this round brush, so I'm going to use this one again. I'm going to, I'll just probably just take some pink, put in a little bit of pink, put in some purple, and add a touch of orange or yellowy orange. I think I'll do that. All right, so for my next color, I'm going to take white. It's okay if I mix a little bit on top of my previous color. Red, a couple of dots this time. You can go a bit more darker, but not too dark. A little bit of pink. So I'm just adding highlights. You can just go over top, wherever, or in a new spot. Maybe I'll put just little accents. Okay. Washing it off again. I will take a little bit more red into that same spot and a touch of blue. See, very little blue. It's going to go purple or lavender because it's really light. Yep, let's put some of that in. I didn't do too much with this. Put a little bit of this purple lavender. So that was just a little bit of blue. So in terms of ratio, it's about 2 parts red, 1 part blue, or 3 parts red, 1 part blue. The blue's pretty dark. And then that was with a lot of white still. If you want it more bluey, instead of, if I add more blue, it just looks blue. It's different blue, softer blue. It's kind of dark. And add a little bit more white. I'm going to wipe off a little extra paint and just gently streak it in. It's hard to know when to stop too. For me, I just kept going until I felt like it was kind of a rainbow, like a gentle rainbow of swirls. So if I keep going over my swirls with any colors, it will blend back into the background because it's still wet. And from here, I think I'll just add in a little bit of orange and some peachy colors once more. You can also add like yellow if you want to put in some of that. But white, putting it in a new spot. I don't want it mixing with blue. I kind of want to steer clear of green again. Touch or two of red with a little pea size of yellow and a scoop of white. But I keep going over this. Sometimes the green will really pick it up if it's still wet. So there's some extra color, and then I'll probably add in a little extra red and some white. It goes coral almost. Optional. So if you like this, put it in. Curious to see everyone else's backgrounds. So at the end, let's see how it comes out. You can always make adjustments too. It's hard to make adjustments afterwards, but Little ones are easy to do. Okay, that's definitely nice and swirly. I think I'm going to leave it. Okay, so I'm going to wash this off and start filling in my palette with my brown color. I guess the reason I did brown was just because it was like a wooden look. Also, it kept it neutral with the colors against it. Gray would look great too. I'm going to mix right over top of my previous brown or on top of any oranges or pinks. It makes it, because you can just add more yellow and red to it and then a touch of black with a little pea size of white so it stays not too dark. It's more of a very light brown. So don't take too much black. It will just be mostly gray brown. And take another scoop of white. And dirty white is good. Okay, there we go. So we'll take a gentle, soft brown. And you just start filling it in. And it has to fully dry before we put the paint colors on. Small touch of water. Mixing a little bit more paint. If it's looking like it's too green, it needs a bit more red, just a little bit at a time. If it's looking too purple or red in general, just a bit more yellow. And it just needs more yellow and red if it looks like it's got too much of a gray, not as much color into it. I'm keeping the lines pretty consistent, following around the groove of the palette. You can always do 2 coats, and it kind of, for the most part, it gets rid of a lot of streaky marks. I don't really mind them. You can always get a blow dryer afterwards and blow dry it. All right. So that's filled in. That has to fully dry. In the meantime, it's pretty flat. I just add a little bit of detail in terms of around the edge of the palette. It looks a little bit more 3D with more of an outline. Something like that. Just a bit of maybe a shadow behind it. Optional. Maybe just a simple outline is best. So I'm going to use my number 2 brush, my smaller detailed brush. You can switch to a chestnut brown or even a black. Or if you're doing gray, like a really dark gray. So chestnut brown is more black, more yellow, no more white, more red. Just the same combination, just no more white. And you get a really dark brown. It's okay if there's a touch of white in there, but not too much. There's my nice dark brown here that I'm going to use with a touch of water. Just twirl my brush into it. Keep it pointy on the end of my brush. So little things like going over this line a bit. And you can just gently, you can even wipe off paint, just very gently, lightly brush in a little extra on one side so it looks like it's more of a shadow, or you can see more of the edge on this side of the palette instead of the opposite side of that oval shape. Almost like a bubble letter look. And so I'll probably do the same thing right here. Going right up to the brown. You can even cover some of your brown. And you just got to trust it. So as I get up towards the top of my palette, I'm going to let it thin out. I'm not going to go as thick. Just more of a gentle, thin outline. So I can add just a little bit of white to my brush, and you can make it look like it's fading out just a little. As a gentle shadow. Okay, so I'll bring it up a bit closer. And from further away, it should come together nicely. I still use this dark brown. You can go over pretty thin around the edge. You don't have to go all the way around. You can leave the very opposite side over here with no outline, or just a lighter one. I think I'll leave it like that. What helps bring it a little bit over the, like just above and beyond, is black. So if I go over just the top of this part where my outline is, the brown stands out a little bit more, but it's more of an absolute shadow. Just brings in all that depth. So you can just go right on the edge with black. So it fades out a little bit lighter. Okay, so any cleanup, you just take a little bit of your lighter brown. Clean up a little bit of the edges. Okay. So now I let that dry. However, the paintbrush, it's pretty brown as well. I am going to put that in. So this is going to be drying, and then I can have this in right over here on the side, kind of sticking out of this, the pocket for the fingers to hold the palette. So it's going to come out this way, and it's not invading on where my colors are going to sit. So green, yellow, orange, red, pink, purple, blue. Again, right here. It's almost like it's in line with the corner of the canvas. It doesn't have to be perfectly in line. It can be a little bit off this way. But it's about that way. And you can grab a ruler or just use an actual brush to follow the line so that you keep it pretty straight. I'm going to, you know what? I have my flat brush here. I can just use my straight line to follow that up. I start with a line first, and then I make it thicker and build off of it from there. It is going to be in more of a brown first, and then the tip of the brush can be, I went a bit more greenish, but you can do more of a white color, like it's never really been used. I find that a lot of brushes turn green naturally after you've been using them. Okay, so going back to more of a brown, you can change up your brown. So it's not like you have to do the same brown. You can do a red brown. So that's just extra red with your brown. See? Maybe a touch of white. So it's a red brown. It's like a mahogany, instead of the brush itself being, you don't have to do black. You can do like a mahogany. It looks a bit more vintage, I guess, or this one's a bit more orangey. You can do gold. Okay, so following that in line, I'm going to say that the tip of the brush is going to be somewhere around here. I'm going to go a little bit shorter. Just press there. Okay, so clearly it's not going to be that thin. Wipe it off a little bit. Don't need too much paint. Depending on the style of the brush, I followed this one in a sense but I went darker in color down here. And then I followed the line. So you can see it goes into the metallic part that's holding the brush and the bristles together, the hairs. So I followed roughly this shape. So it kind of goes a little bit wide and then thin again, or you can keep it all the same. Let's switch to a small brush. It might make it a bit easier too. All right. I'm just going to increase how thick it is right here. Follow that up. Just short of where the palette ends. I'm just going to see a little rectangle. You can do a little bit of that widening out. Make it look a bit rounded. Okay, now from here, I'm going to add some white to it and more yellow, scoop of yellow. See how it goes a bit more gold, sort of brassy. A bit more of a gold color, add a bit more white. You can actually use gold or just put gold on top to make it look shiny. Okay, so from there, I want my brush to be around here. So I can just put a little line and let it meet there. I'm just adding more white on my brush. I didn't wash it off. I used the same color, but I just added white. You can wipe off your paint, just white, and it's going to get a lighter version of this. I didn't wash it off, and I'm going to make the shape of the brush. I decided to go with a round pointy tip, like a raindrop or a flame look. Something like that. Obviously, but you're just building onto it, so that's okay. Taking black, adding it to my dark brown, so it's just darker. If you want, you can even just take black. Small touch of water. Okay, so I'm just going to wrap it. You have to think, since it's rounded, it's got to curve a little bit around, so it looks like the indents are just wrapping around. Follow that down a little bit more on the side of the brush. It gets a little bit darker on the edges. Put that at the top. Come around, outline the side a little bit at the top of the brush. And I'm also going to use a little bit of this color with a touch of water again up here, so it looks like it's got a bit of a shadow. Just flicking it up like little pieces of grass or hair, just gently. Very little paint, mostly from the bottom. So it looks like there's a lot scrunched together. It looks very shadowy where it's coming out from this part of the brush. And just remember, you can pause, take your time with this video, take a break whenever. This is like a 2-day painting, so this one took a little while. But I find that it's therapeutic, pretty awesome, just in terms of when you finish it, it's a good accomplishment. Okay, so when you're ready, still using a small brush, I am taking white with a little touch of my sort of gold that I made. So it's just lighter. I'm going to go along. I'm going to make it look shiny up here. See how I just put a little highlight, a couple streaks right through here and in between those little curves. And I'm also putting some down the brush handle. So it is picking up my background color, which is what I wanted. You can always go back to your brown if you find that you may have accidentally went too light and you fully let it dry. That's okay. Okay, I'm just touching up on with the handle where it's curving around these little indents. I'll show you here. From here, the wood piece ends, and then it goes into these little indents, curved lines just above it. You don't have to be as fancy as me when I did this. And it's good to let it dry too. So if it's not going the color you want it to go, just let it dry. You come back to it later. Do a little touch up. I'm going to add a couple little streaks of my sort of green color into the very top of the brush. See how it's light, you can leave it like that, but you can add maybe a little hint of green. So I didn't just do vibrant green. No, I didn't do that. I put 2 parts yellow, 1 part blue into my brown. And then I'm going to take a scoop of white, mix that separately, and you get a olivey soft green. So it's almost like it's faded. Put a little bit into here. And just a little bit of that green. You can go a little bit darker. I just remember to add brown. So I did brown on purpose because I felt like it was more of a natural look. And the more brown or black you put into your green, if you want to go darker, you can add extra little deep pockets of color. You can even put a little hint of green streaked into the gold part, like it's reflective of that color. Okay, so I'm going to leave that for now, and I can always come back to it tomorrow or just later. Just softening everything up. A couple little streaks of white maybe. Just plain white. You just wash off your brush. And plain white. Alrighty. I think I can start placing my colors. So I'm going to start with light yellow, only because it's the lightest color, and when you wash it off, you don't have to worry about other colors sticking to it, but you can change your water and stuff, wash off your brushes. I'm going back to my round one. I'm taking a scoop of white and a dip of yellow, starting off pretty light, not just taking straight yellow. Okay, I want green here. You can actually start with yellow streaked through for your first 4 colors. So yellow, green, orange, and red. Why? Because yellow is added in pretty much all those colors. For red, my red is very pink looking, so I added a touch of yellow into it, and it helps act like a medium. So when you paint over it, you're not seeing your background as much. So I want my green. I just did like a wave. Just like that. And you can do any thickness you want. You can always make it bigger, of course. I'm going to start with this. Okay, and then let's keep going. So my actual yellow one here, press. So you can see it's not as opaque. So this is a good starting point for the first 4 colors. And just making sure that orange, then red, pink, purple, blue, I still have space. Then I'm going to put orange right about here. And now my red, put a little extra yellow into it. Red. Okay. I can always adjust with a smaller brush. I don't need to force it with a bigger brush. I'm just going to let that settle into the canvas. My other colors, I have 3 more colors. The pink, purple, and the blue. When I put it down here, I don't really need to do all one color. I'm not going to do light yellow. You can just do, you can actually put pink for the pink and the purple and then light blue. Anyways, let's just do pink first. Red, scoop of white. So it is whatever pink you want it to be, like darker, light pink. You can always add hot pink accents. I'm going to place that just a little bit below. And I'm starting to just go in a different direction. Purple. I'm going to start with just a dot of blue and then I can change it up later. So it is a lighter pinkish purple at first and then I'll change it up. So for my purple, I have like a person, like a mermaid. So a mermaid sitting on the purple, reading a book with the mountains around here. Making sure I'm not going too high up. And it's taking up the space I want it to. And then for blue, just a little bit of blue and white. Over here. I made mine look a little bit more like a bass clef. And then I put a blue jay directly over top, so I didn't even bother thinking about the bottom for that. All right. That's what I have so far. Lighter to start washing this off. And now we can start placing, going back up here, I can go over with green. It will be a bit more vibrant. Okay. Blue, yellow, equal parts, a little bit of white, not too much white. You can have fun with your colors. You can do different greens, you can do teal, add it in. Okay, so there's some green, and then we take a smaller brush. You can change up your green. You can see up the top corner and just making it a bit more teal and darker. So no more white. Kind of like a forest green. And just add accents. Maybe some yellow green, white and yellow for the end. And on the inner part, you can just make this a little bit lighter. That's my dark green. All right, so I'm going to let that dry for a minute before I make touch into that color there, because it's going to keep just mixing around the colors. Now to my yellow. Clean brush. I can add just straight yellow. Yeah, it's pretty dark. Deepen up some of these streaks that are flowing through. I can also make gold yellow. A little touch of red added to yellow with a touch or two of white. See how it's not orange, but it's like a goldish, golden yellow. All right, now I can switch to orange. So I'm just letting this dry. If you want to darken things up and it's still wet, you just have to come back. Red and yellow. I'm going to do 2 to 3 parts yellow, 1 part red. So you're just mixing in the same spot. That's really deep. That can actually be a little bit of a darker streak. I'm just going to add into the orange. See how it just becomes nice and dark. And then I can put in some more yellow and a little bit of white, or some lighter yellowy orange mixed in. Okay. Red. Washing this off again. Seeing if that's kind of dry. I'm going to take red with a little bit of yellow. Stops it from going pink, so it looks very red. And I think I've added a smaller brush. This one I will wait for it to dry before I come back and make it a bit more true red. Okay, I'm going to let that fully dry. Going to make my way to the pink, purple, and blue, and then from there I'm just going to add little things like some of the leaves and a couple of flowers, and then tomorrow I'll focus on some of the bigger things like the fairy, the mermaid, the blue jay, and the monarch. Alright, so for the pink, I'm going to do some hot pink streaks so that some of the light pink is still there. So that's just red with a tiny touch of white or straight red. Now I'm going to add in some purple streaks, red, dot of blue, no white. You can get some deep, almost violet colors. I'm just adding accent colors to my liking so it doesn't look like it's just one color. Purple has a bit of swirls of some different types, shades of purple. Even a little bit lighter, you can add some more white. Even more blue for a bit of a bluey purple. Now to my blue. Wash this off. Take straight blue. I find this one easier to work with because it's just blue. And then white, blue and white to make the light blue. So if I take white on my brush, I just go to a light blue again. And I will add my little touch-ups later when it's more dry. Come back to it tomorrow to pop out some of the different colors. I just want it to fully dry. So make some deeper greens in these little swirly creases that you see spiraling in, or deeper yellow and so on. This has to be more red, but it's not going to go more red when it's wet. Okay, so we have our colors on the palette, which is great. I can start adding in some leafy greens for the green section and work my way over, put some flowers for the yellow and orange. Just letting it dry for just a few seconds. I'm going to use my number 2 detail brush. So I use this one and maybe a bit of my flat brush. Okay, so with my green, I'm going to mix more of a darker green. So the blue, yellow equal parts. Touch of, actually a couple touches of black, give it a nice dark color. Dark green. Pressing down to keep it thin and pointy. You can also use a detailed brush. I'm just going to do maybe just a couple little waves of where some of my stems are coming out of for my leafy bits. And I have a couple monsteras that I've put in, or just leaves. I think I'll do one right here. I'll put one right here. And just added a little filler leaf. So wherever you want to fill something in, you can just put an actual leaf with a little point on it. Even right here, just a little leaf. So what I've done is I take white with a little touch of my green. And at the top, I just do little short blobs or thin lines, following it down. I'm going to change the green, just add more yellow, just for fun. Do thin, long, thin lines instead. Adding a little highlight on the leaf, just a little accent on the top or the side. And if you want to put a different type of leaf in, I'm going to do that now. Take my dark green. Okay, so at the bottom of this, I did almost like sort of a heart shape, I guess, for the tip of the leaf. And I mostly followed it so that when it was going up, following the stem, followed it up a little bit and then curled it down with a little bit of a point. So it all looks like it's kind of dripping and pointing downwards. And curl it down. Almost like crazy hair. Let's do one more. I can fit like a little one here. And then one more. I'm going to do, so the top, as it goes upwards, I'm going to do like a little bit thicker and longer. So if I shape around this, it looks like it's overall it's coming down to a point. It's longer and widest at the top, and it just gets a little bit thinner, not as long with the leaves at the bottom. And also just take your light green, add in a couple of highlights, maybe a yellowy color. Add in some little highlights, like little taps into it to give it more interest again. Different shades of green throughout that. Okay, just going a little bit darker with my green. Not too dark, not too light. Mixing a little bit more in with my light green. Touch up on your leaves up here. You can just add little stems or little accents of color into the leaves to give it more dimension. So that's a good start. Touch-ups later, but you can also just take black, put a couple of black lines through the middles of leaves that you have. I'll come back to that. So lift it up a little bit closer, and then I'll switch over to the yellow. washing off the brushes again. Okay. I'm going to use my small brush again. For the yellow and the orange, I kind of did just a bunch of flowers for those. Very summery. You can even do sunflowers if you want to do a sunflower instead. But I didn't put the sunflowers on. That's a lot more work for sure. But you can just put one big one here. I think it'd be kind of cool. So I'm going to do white, yellow to start. I would say equal parts yellow and white. And then I accent with some orange. And then for the ones on the orange, I just fill them in more orange. I have flowers kind of right here. So I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Fill it in. And if I take orange, just dab in the center, give it a little bit of an outline, streaking out around the petals. And we'll start building onto the depth a little bit there too. I can go back to my light yellow. I can do it again. Actually, I'll do a kind of like a side view of the petal. So I'm going to go press, go 1, 1 in the middle, 2, 3, 1 on the other side. There it is a bit closer. Taking the tiny ones, so like a couple petals, just a much smaller flower. You can fill in with light yellow in these big ones that you made, just at the ends or the tops of it again. And light yellow. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Little daisies. I added a little extra whimsy, so I just kind of put some little dots. Or just another side flower off to the side. And the side flowers are honestly just making half a flower, and you don't really see the other half. Taking orange, putting a couple in the middle here. And you can take orange and put a couple orange flowers. So I did the same as this one. 1, 2, 3 on the side. And I made a more of a daisy overlapping between the two colors. And then I just do thin lines going around like a clock. Sort of like a sunflower too. So I went over these two colors, and it just has to dry because I'm going to outline it and make it a bit more obvious with a black color. I'm just letting it sit, and so I think my monarch will be somewhere around here because it's going to be touching the red and orange. Still a bit wet. I wash off this brush and I take a bit of black. I'm taking black. I can tap around where I want my center of the flower to be. And just very gently, a couple of streaks going out, but a gentle outline, not too precise, around some of these petals. Okay, so it stands out just a little bit more, and I put just a couple extra little dots in the center. Touch it up later. I can do the same and similar thing into my yellow flowers. A little bit of black. Lightly dot around the centers, just for the two that I've done. And just a little bit of black again, but just very gently streak a little bit of this out. Very carefully going around some of the outline of the petals, but not all the way around. This one, I'll add a couple of dots in this one. Okay, so this is just black again, going around this little section on this brush. Little touch-ups. on some of the creases there. And touching up on maybe some of this green. So if you want to add a little bit more accents of color, it should be more dry. This is just lighter green streaked in. A little bit of black. Outline some of these leaves that just down the middle and maybe on the edges too. Putting a couple of dabs into the Monstera at the bottom. To your liking, just playing around. Fun little trick is adding sometimes a little bit of blue into your leaves. So if I just take a sky blue, so a little bit of blue and white, maybe a little extra white, it will break up all the same green. And you can get, it actually makes everything look a little more green, like different greens overall. So that's an option. Little hints of blue into these leaves. Okay. So if you want to take any green, like a dark green stem, so one of your darker greens with a bit of black into it, you can add little stems to some of your flowers. Optional, like this one, I put a little stem and then just a little line, like it's connected to this little palette over here, this color. So a hint of my super light green. Back into the brush. A couple streaks into the reflective part. Tiny little touch-ups. Okay, going back into my yellow flowers and adding a couple orange streaks at the bottom of the leaves, or adding a little hint of orange into the yellow spiral. This is just light yellow going into the spiral, that paint color that I've made. You can even put a couple streaks of that into your orange daisy. A couple little streaks just towards the ends. This is just black. I am taking yellow and white into the center of that daisy. So lift it up a little bit more. I'm going to take red and yellow equal parts, so it's a little bit more reddish orange. Yeah, I'm just giving a little accent on the swirl here, but it's not taking over the entire orange. It's just there. A little bit of a fiery look. And a couple of streaks towards the center of this daisy. Okay. So from here, what I think I'm going to do is, I think I'll add the pink flower here, and then we'll come back and do this tomorrow. You can, in the meantime, you can do little touch-ups, take a step back, see how it's looking. Yeah, I'm going to do a pink flower here, and we'll come back to this tomorrow. Okay, so for that pink flower, just went back to a little bit of a light pink. Just doing a little swirl in there. I'm going to start with mostly white. Yes, I'm going to do that. White and the tiniest little touch of red. It's hardly pink at all. The reason I did that is because when you put it against the pink, it's almost like a cherry blossom in a way. Not quite, but it's mostly white, and then it doesn't clash too much with the pink overall. You'll see. So white, tiny little dot of red. I'm going to put it so that it's not going right into this red here. I'm going to put it off to the side so it's kind of on the edge of the palette. You can use a center point by putting a little blob here. Okay, so I'm going to go up and I'm just going to make a little gentle heart shape. See? Pull that down so it's not too pointy or indented. It comes down to meet that. I'm going to sort of do it again, but I'm going to work my way around. I'm going to start from here and just start really close to the bottom of this petal and then drift away, kind of like a heart shape again. All right, let's do the other side. You don't have to make it so symmetrical. So close here and just fold it over this time so it's like it's drooping over. Like that. Okay. Then from the center point, I'm going to flick it out, almost like a heart shape. going towards the bottom. Very similar to these shapes, right? But it's just like it's just flowing and flicking outwards. Kind of reminds me of a ribbon. So you can fit one more in here, or you can do two more. You want to look at what I've done in the original. I don't want to make it too complicated, so I'll just do one more right here. One more there. Okay. I'm switching to orange. So this pretty much this orange color we've done up here. So switch to orange. And I'm going to dab right in the middle. Tap with the tip of the brush, make it nice and spongy. Washing it off. So before I introduce a little bit of black, I'm going to now go and just put a couple accents of some hot pink. So more red, no more white. Just gently follow that up. Just a few streaks. I don't want it overly pink. I want it mostly looking kind of white. And then I can take a little bit of black while it's still wet with some water, because what it will do is it won't be too harsh. It will pick up some of that red color. Follow it up gently, just very roughly. You can use a smaller brush to give it a slight outline. And I'm also dabbing a little bit more on the very right side of this center of the orange. Adds extra shadow. Okay, and again with the black. Still doing a couple streaks coming from the bottom, and then carefully giving a squiggly little outline towards the ends. Adding a little bit of red and white to my brush. So water, I didn't wash it off because it's touching black, red and white. It kind of goes a bit purpley, but like red purple. You want to put some of this towards the tips of your petals. Okay, so I'm going to pull this closer. Red and black with white. Give it more of a purpley tone. Here it is a bit closer. And this is just blacked out around, for the most part, this middle section. Touching up on some orange close to that black helps with the shadow. Then you can take yellow and white just to give it a couple little highlights on the other side so it looks like it's got some light yellowy bits sticking out. If you want to touch up with some just pure white highlights into the flower, give it more of a lighter look. See, I'm just adding in some white, leaving some of the edges where I outlined alone, but more in the center of the flower or the petals, brighter. Okay. All right, so I think this is a good place to just stop. I'm going to just touch up on this red. Oh, it's pretty dry. See how it goes very red. That was a touch of yellow added to the red so it doesn't go pink. Just be careful when you're lightening anything with the red, it goes pink. So if you just add yellow and some white to go a little bit more orange sometimes, it will keep it fiery looking instead of cool pink. Once in a while, adding a little streak of orange into it is fine because it adds the different red looks. Just a little swirl of orange. Cool. If you wanted to go a little bit more, I guess, above and beyond, red and the tiniest dot of black. No orange, by the way, just red, tiniest dot of black. It will be deep red. Kind of looks like a wine color. You can darken that little crease there. Okay. So this is all going to dry, and come back tomorrow if you want to do some little touch-ups. You can. We'll be adding some extra things into this. You can show your results and your progress Artist Palette Derm on Facebook. Ask questions and stuff. Tell me what you're doing different or show what you're doing different. Take a little break. Okay, maybe I'll see you or paint along with you tomorrow. Bye.